was doing a private comedy show 2 Saturdays ago, and I came home and I put you guys on YouTube, and I watched your first episode.
Right.
And then today I listened to your second episode on my little Alexa, and I really enjoy it. You guys do a good job. You banter off each other and you give a lot of information. So my question is, how did you guys choose each other to host together? How did this whole show come about? Because it's a long path. You have 130 something episodes you have to do. So it's not like you're doing every episode. So how did it all come about, and how did you guys choose each other?
Well, we didn't choose each other. Tom Fontana chose us, and he put us together on the same television show.
And he said, 30 years from now, you'll be doing a podcast with each other. Exactly. Just have me on the show a couple times at least.
I mean, really, Steve, the hilarious part is like, look, the beauty of this show is that it was like the creative high point of all of our lives. But what's crazy about it is we were all like slightly, and I hate to use any sort of psychological terms, but we were like slightly traumatized all by it. But the secret is that we all thought we had that experience alone. And so it was the 30th anniversary, and there's a great other podcast called Homicide Life on the Set, and they had brought Kyle on, and I'd heard some other people, and I just worked with our DP Jean de Segonzac earlier in the year, and I was thinking this, but like it had occupied. Literally, homicide lives in my brain. But I'm going to make a long story short. So then Kyle started a small little, he was doing his Substack. So he had a little podcast adjacent to that. He's like, can I come on? Will you come on my podcast? And I was like, of course, Kyle, I loved you. And Kyle and I, the one thing that's beautiful about homicide is however prickly it was on the day when we were all there, anytime we see each other afterwards, it's a love fest. And so Kyle and I wouldn't say that we were friends, but we weren't close when we did the show. But every time we saw each other after the show, we were always very close. We often see each other at yoga, or we're wandering down the streets on Riverside Boulevard after
in our yoga gear.
In our yoga, fully in our yoga gear, and that could be bicycle shorts, whatever you want to imagine.
Whatever you want to, yeah.
But Kyle brought me onto his gorgeous show, and it was wonderful to talk to someone else the way he did on Homicide Life on the Set, to talk to someone. It's run by Susan, who was our first AC, and a lovely gentleman, Chris Carr, a British fan filmmaker. But then to talk to someone in your sort of group and share those stories, it has another layer of intimacy and another layer of revelation and another layer of fun. So after we did that, Kyle was like, we should do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, I'll do a podcast with you, man, because that sounds like a lot of fun. And he goes, we should do a rewatch podcast because it's re-airing on Peacock. And I go, I don't know much about rewatch podcasts, but let's do it. And here we are 2.5 months later. And I got to tell you, and Kyle will tell you more, and I'm going to shut up because I can be quite long-winded, as Kyle knows. It's been a freaking journey. It's been an odyssey. Kyle and I, like when Kyle's face popped up right now on the thing, I was like, oh, I'm safe. Like Kyle and I have fallen in love over the last 2.5 months, and we knew each other, but like we've gone like I get more texts from Kyle than I get from my wife, and we talk to each other the first thing in the morning. We talk all day, and we've been recording this thing. We're learning how to do it, and we'll talk about it more. But the beauty of it is, I thought a rewatch podcast was, whatever, they exist. I wasn't sure that's the kind of thing, per your statement, Steve, that something you want to listen to. But how this has evolved in that very homicide way, it's a rewatch podcast, but it's really more. It's a conversation about art, and it's a conversation about a period of filmmaking. It's a conversation about another era, and it's a conversation about love and trauma and remembrance. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Well, what I'll say real quick is when Homicide was on the first time, I didn't really watch it a lot. It was so long ago. I think I was doing stand-up at the time, so I was never home.
Right.
And now I just started watching it on Peacock. So I'm only through season 3. So you're not on yet. Mike Kellerman's not on yet. No. But I through 3. So I really appreciate it because I've watched these in the last few weeks. So it's good to hear you describing the episodes. Yeah. I know when Kyle, when you were on Cooper Talk, you had told me about the episode of the 3 guys in the box.
Right.
Okay. And then I watched it and I was blown away, and I was like, holy shit, he is right. It is like a play, and it was crazy. But now Reid, you said Kyle's going to tell me something. So Kyle, what are you going to say how the podcast started, how this all jived together?
Oh yeah. I called Reid and he said yes.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah.
And because we had such a great connection doing this interview that I did for this Substack thing, I'm going to be a little more terse.
Coop's Comment Corner.